What is going on, people of the internet? Hyper Chaotic here with a K, double R, and welcome back, or welcome if this is your first time visiting my channel. And if it is, welcome to the continuation of the off the top of my head retrospective of the individual MCU phases as a casual fan. And when I say off the top of my head, I literally mean straight off the top of my head, from memory, no script or nothing, going through each individual film of each individual phase. In my last video, I already went over phase 1 and phase 2. Since they were short phases, I was able to fit them both in the same video. And in today's video will only be phase 3 since it's a bit of a larger phase. The same will go for phase 4 when I go over it. It will be its own video since it's a bigger phase with more content than the original first 2. Even more than 3 even. Now, when I also say casual fan, I literally mean casual. I mean as a guy who doesn't get exposed to the Marvel Universe further beyond the MCU. Well, I mean, currently I am trying to check out some of the comic books and have been exposed to some of the lore from past and recent comics due to some of the fan videos out there that exist going over and breaking down the lore. I find those videos very fun and interesting. But for the most part, as far as an actual fan that has been keeping up with a specific type of property, most of my exposure, most of my original introduction to the Marvel Universe has to do with the Marvel films, all of them in general, primarily being those within the MCU. And when I say Marvel films in general, this includes ones that were not part of the MCU, that were made even before phase 1 ever happened. So this would include the original Fantastic Four duology that a lot of people don't really have fond memories or opinions of, and the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy. Those were my first introductions to the Marvel Universe in general, just Marvel characters in general, and, you know, just further exposure to the Marvel Universe, in the expanded universe, via the MCU. Now, I have seen other stuff too, like the other Sony films, the Spider-Man films, the Venom films. I've seen quite a few Spider-Man cartoons over the years as well, when they were on ABC Family cartoon weekends, since, you know, back then Disney didn't, wasn't on ABC. It was on ABC, but Disney, I don't think, owned ABC back then yet.
Wrong.
And they sure as hell didn't have Disney Plus yet, or own Marvel at the time. But yeah, that's literally how casual of a fan I am. I'm not a hardcore fan, although I do have some knowledge on further lore of Marvel, so I can recognize some stuff that's done just for the sake of fan service. But for the most part, most of my knowledge, most of my, I guess, fandomness of me actually being exposed to Marvel in general has been via the MCU. And I am not a hardcore fan of the MCU. I just casually watch them. There are significant few, you know, that I prefer the most. Others that I would still watch if I was to catch it on TV, or even just start playing automatically while streaming. And others that I'm like, they're decent. I don't know if I will go out of my way to watch them, but they're decent. If somebody was to just play it in the background, I'll probably watch it. And then you have phase 4, which just has some that were just garbage. Anyways, this is not the video about phase 4. This is the video about phase 3. I think before I do phase 4, I might actually do a video of previous Marvel films before the MCU phases, and even after the MCU phases, in between, with the spin-offs, like the ABC shows, again, before Disney Plus was a thing, and even the films from Sony, like the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man films and the Venom films. Oh, and Ghost Rider. I always forget that Ghost Rider exists, and Blade. So, you know, the original Blade trilogy. but I'll probably say I might do that before the Phase 4 video. I might do that after the Phase 4 video. I'm still kind of deciding on that in general, but I honestly do want to go over those other ones, the Sony stuff, the and the Netflix. I always, there's all this other Marvel property that I honestly forget about just because it's not part of the MCU, or it just wasn't that good of a film or memorable in general. This would probably not include any animated films. This is just mainly the live action stuff, which will, of course, have some CGI, which is technically animation, but still, you get my point. With that said, enough rambling, enough with the long 6-minute intro. Let's go ahead and get into my off the top of my head retrospective of Phase 3. Captain America Civil War. Man, I remember the discourse on this film once people saw it being so polarizing, for lack of a better way to describe it. Because you just had so many people arguing whose ideology was the better ideology between Cap and Iron Man. And I'm not gonna lie, I was a bit of a fence sitter when it came to the ideologies, because I thought both were making good points. You shouldn't have to completely sacrifice your freedom for safety, but at the same time, complete and utter freedom means also kind of sacrificing safety. Like, I'm not gonna get into it very deep. I promise you, there are plenty of videos out there that have done a deeper dive on the ideologies and politicalness of of Captain America: Civil War. But for me personally, I thought there were both points, and I felt like there could have been a balance. But at the same time, I feel like in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it would be hard to find a balance, since you got these supervillains that really only the Avengers can take care of. That really kind of only exist because of the Avengers. But, getting rid of them and limiting them doesn't guarantee it's going to limit the damage that is caused when they come to town, which sometimes happens before they're even around. Especially when you look at the events that happen in the first Avengers. And then you have Age of Ultron, which, I mean, that's a whole can of worms. I barely went into it as is about that, but, I'm just not one to really be very well at breaking down films off the top of my head, let alone doing that on script, to be honest. But needless to say that I think it was a very interesting film that actually had a lot of people having plenty of discussions on said ideologies and, political opinions of the matter, which technically when you look at the film, it does kind of get political. I always find it funny people say shit like, don't put your politics in my movies. Can't we have a story without politics for once? Yes, we can. We already do. We have them all the fucking time. But I dare you to name me a film with action, with serious events, with drama, with this or that nowadays that doesn't have some sort of fucking politics. Have always been a part of story all the time. I think the issue is when people try to shove their political agenda in a story where it doesn't fit, where it doesn't belong, or when sometimes they do shit that can actually be considered quote unquote woke. I mean, lately you've been hearing a lot of criticisms for Marvel Phase 4 that people have been saying, woke this, woke that, go woke, go broke. Motherfucker, what wokeness did you see? Can't you tell it's the MCU? It all started with WandaVision. They made her a complete and utter, what's the word? A Mary Sue. I mean, kind of, yeah, but in this case, that's the fucking point. She's supposed to be the super fucking advanced being. She's the Scarlet fucking Witch. Did y'all not see? Like, WandaVision didn't have the best write it in the world. I think they could have done better when it came to the end, at the ending. They kind of crash landed at the ending for me personally, though I still liked WandaVision. I know I should be talking about Civil War, but I just want to get to my points. People complaining stupid shit about the MCU, now they're bringing in the politics. Bitch, the politics have been in Marvel the whole fucking time! The whole time! If anything, this was the height of it. And nobody was complaining back then about politics, political agendas, wokeness. Like, I would say there are some situations, circumstances, very, very, very few examples within Phase 3 that you can say try to go woke. And a very significant few within Phase 4 that try to do something a little bit woke. Whatever you would consider quote-unquote woke, that is. But for the most part, people are just claiming wokeness where there's just bad writing. That's it. Bad delivery. That's it. And somehow it's wokeness. Like, shut the fuck up, bro. What? No, you're not making any sense. Complaining about politics, and the same people crying woke are saying the liberals. It's the liberals. They're trying to fit their political agenda. They're turning the frogs gay. Like, no. Motherfucker, you're the only one bringing up politics about a film that just has bad writing. That's it. Like, shut the fuck up, dude. And what's funny is, though, there are some content creators out there that are crying woke, but then will actually give some genuine, legitimate criticisms about a piece of media that they're crying woke about. Like, what you're crying is woke is not woke. It's just bad writing. Like, your criticisms are genuine and make sense. They're actually fair. Some of them actually will make fair criticism. When you look past the woke this, woke that, the liberals. Oh my fucking god. If you just genuinely try to look past it for some content creators, such as the Critical Drinker, he does sometimes give some legitimate criticism. But then he gives others that under the idea of wokeness, and it doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense, because you're crying woke where there's no wokeness whatsoever. And he's made some that almost sounded straight up misogynistic, to be honest. And I don't mean in the abuse sense of the word of, I don't like it, and he mentioned women, so he's a misogynist. Like, no. Genuinely, it just kind of sounded ignorant. It literally just sounded just misogynistic by definition. I don't have the definition in front of me right now, but by definition, it actually sounded a little misogynistic. But again, if you were to look past the wokeness, he did have some legitimate criticism, and even did a video of how WandaVision or Multiverse of Madness could have been written a little bit better. Again, I still like WandaVision. I didn't like Multiverse of Madness, but he did make some actual good points. It's just hard to hear him and take him serious when he's crying woke and the message. Motherfucker, what message? The only message they should be telling us is the story and the lesson they're trying to teach in the story. If that's done like shit, then again, that's just bad writing and teaching a poor lesson that has nothing to do with wokeness. And I hate it when I hear stupid shit like that from the Critical Drinker, because I started watching him do his reviews. Not his MCU reviews or his film reviews in general, but his game reviews. Because I've been seeing some videos from him, as well as another guy by the name of Jarek the Gaming Dragon, who have done some pretty interesting reviews of more obscure games. It's kind of got me wanting to do that for my second channel, the Be Quiet channel, where I have no commentary gameplay. Which is funny, I would have commentary, but still. This is going off topic, but for some content creators who are crying woke, if you can look past it, some will give some legitimate criticism. Others, they're just pulling a bunch of nonsense out of their ass. For real, dude. Because, again, going back to what I should be talking about, Captain America Civil War, I think of all of the fucking MCU films that got the most political, it was this film. It was a good, entertaining film that had a lot of people discussing and debating both sides. And for that reason, I think that alone is another reason to appreciate the film. It actually got people thinking and discussing more about the topics, about the situation that it brought up in the film. And it's funny how people always say, you want to enjoy the film, you gotta turn off your brain. Motherfucker, for stuff like Civil War, you're not supposed to turn off your brain. In fact, your shit gotta be on fully. Like, you know, it's not like the message is promoting either side or anything. But to really comprehend, to understand what's going on, and whether or not which side you would be on, you do have to think about it. I would say of all MCU films, of all of them, Civil War is the one that actually is trying to get you to think. So if you're one of those dumb fucks that went into the film saying, you gotta turn your brain off. No, you dipshit. This is the one film where you need it on. They want you to analyze this shit. They want you to think about this. Dun dun dun. The fuck? I get it. Some films require your brain to be on standby. You can never truly turn your brain off completely. You go on standby. But when something ain't right, when something doesn't fit in the film, your brain's going to detect that discrepancy. Whether or not the film's entertaining or good enough that you can forgive it and ignore it is the real. That's, you know. Anyways, Civil War, it was a great film. Really had so many people talking about it so much. And it's funny how a film that was very political didn't have the people crying about politics, 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 you know, crying over this film. I don't know, maybe there were some, but at the time it wasn't really a big thing, the anti-wokeness, which is now getting just as bad as the wokeness. Even though they're crying woke where it doesn't exist. Oh my god, the internet's just fucking ridiculous sometimes. Doctor Strange. At the time when Doctor Strange was being announced, I had never heard... Well, I've heard of the character before, but I never really understood him to a full degree. I think the first time I ever heard about him was actually from an uncle of mine, because he was trying to get his boys into comic books and collecting these special type of Marvel cards, I think, that would go in the dark, and one of them was from Doctor Strange. He talked about him, and when I looked at his design, I'm like, oh my god, it's original. He's like, no, actually, we actually did that. The way he kind of talks about it, the way he almost looks like it sounds like he's a bad guy. But of course, if you look at the lore within the comics, look at some shows, like in the animations that were featured in, of course, in MCU. That was the first time I was watching this. I was like a little kid. This is around the time when the first Fantastic Four film would have been out for like a few years, but the second one was not out yet. They had not been produced and released into theaters. That was my introduction to Doctor Strange. But otherwise, this was my first time actually getting into it, getting to understand it, as well as videos, getting more about it from the comic books when people were getting comics for Doctor Strange. Just like all the films from Phase 1, it's another origin story. This one is definitely a little bit different from the other ones, because this is a guy who loses his culture and severe injury. And tries to use sorcery to fix it. When you read back in the film, he doesn't even go back and try to be a doctor. He just ends up getting so much into being a sorcerer that, I don't know, he just gets stuck into doing that and just completely forgets his whole goal, his whole purpose of doing it in the first place. I want to fix my hand so I can be a surgeon again. Oh, I'm kind of liking this sorcerer shit. You know what, I'm thinking I'm going to stick around and do this for a while. Then became the Sorcerer Supreme before, yeah, he would eventually lose his status as a Supreme, Sorcerer Supreme, but for the most part, as far as I understand, it doesn't seem like he really goes back to being a surgeon again. Or if it is, it's probably like on again, off again, because he has a bigger responsibility of being the Sorcerer Supreme. Okay, before he loses it. So that's what I think that's fascinating about this origin story is because, I mean, I guess technically you could say that for certain other origin stories too, like how for Spider-Man's origin story, he probably originally became Spider-Man to try to find Uncle Ben's killer. I guess that depends on which version of Spider-Man you look at, and the same for Batman too. I know this is not Marvel, but that's just another example of an origin story where the original purpose of the heroes within his origin story is probably to catch the villain who wronged him, who harmed him or his loved ones. Then he learns the responsibility of being a hero. Great power comes great responsibility. Of course, back to Spider-Man. And just end up being a good hero in general and forget to even look for the guy who originally did them harm or the person. Sometimes, depending on, again, the version, they will get the guy, but they won't necessarily take their revenge. They'll get some justice, but via the legal system, even though they're still technically a vigilante. But even then, I think what's different is it's something that he basically did it to himself. He wasn't paying attention to the road. He got into an accident that caused him out as himself a serious injury that made him lose his career. He did it to himself. A broken man that broke himself emotionally, career-wise, and in the sense of his injury, literally broke himself. And wanted to get back up so he can get his life back. But ended up doing this other thing entirely and kind of forgetting about his original goal. Because you know what? I'm liking the Sorcerer Supreme thing. I think I'm going to keep this up. Which makes me wonder, if he was to have his powers taken away, I don't know how, it's supposed to be all in his head, sorcery and whatnot, but we see it near the end of Doctor Strange, the after credit scene, where, what was that guy's name? Honestly, I forgot all about him. Literally, Marvel themselves forgot all about him until his cameo in Multiverse of Madness. I'll put him up on screen. You'll know who I'm talking about when I put the character up on screen. Maybe his name, if I feel like editing that much. But he literally takes another sorcerer's powers away, whose legs are fucked up, and once he takes it away, he can't walk anymore. So I'd imagine if, of course, Doctor Strange has his powers taken away. Again, I'm not sure how that would work, since all of that would be less equipment, less a magical juice they consumed or whatever, or energy source, and just practicing the fucking what do you call it, the spells. But again, technically it does happen to a sorcerer. If it happens to him, his hands would most likely be fucked up again. Even then, for what it was fun. And some of the scenes oh my god, that one scene where the original Sorcerer Supreme puts him in his astral projection and just launches him through dimensions. Like, bro, that's some trippy DMT LSD type shit right there. I actually would love to see that fucking imagery. I would love to see that scene if I was literally on LSD or DMT. Probably DMT, because the last time I ever actually tried LSD, I didn't really have an effect. I was just sitting there like, ain't something supposed to happen? Supposedly my pupils are dilating, but I'm trying to see the gods on the other side. I feel like I should have been high to see that scene. But yeah, man, this was genuinely a good film. All in all, I enjoyed the fuck out of that film. Just for its imagery alone. Story-wise, again, it's another origin story. But it's a twist on the origin story because what happens to our protagonist, he does it to himself. He does realize the error of his ways and how he's been treating others too. But for the most part, what happens to him, he does it to himself. And he goes through the struggle to get his life back and gets more than that. And we get Doctor fucking Strange, the Sorcerer Motherfucking Supreme. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Man, I thought the first film was fun as fuck, and I thought this one was fun as fuck. We get some extra characters in this movie, and just like with the last film, although we don't get too much of them in this film, each one of them gets their chance in the spotlight to really show off their character and who they are, their demeanor, whatnot, and have their interaction with the other characters. Like, I don't know if anybody has a problem with the characters in their films and how much time we get with them. Because for me, I feel like we get a good enough time with them for every character we get. Of course, we're more focused on Star-Lord in this film, and Ego, his father, the living planet, and even Gamora has a little bit more to do in this film than the other guys, because she's trying to get, Star-Lord on track. But for the most part, even all the other characters, they get their time in the spotlight. You get to enjoy each of their individual characters for the time being that they're in the spotlight. And even their interactions with the other characters are just very entertaining. The way they did Ego the Planet in this film was just, I thought it was fascinating. I really enjoyed how they did it. I would have loved to see more from Ego the Living Planet in the future. Maybe they could do a prequel or something like that. But obviously, the motherfucker's dead now. We're not really going to see any more of him in the MCU. Other than maybe prequels or maybe multiversal cameos. Though, I'm the type that prefers my cameos to add something to the story rather than just be glorified fan service. I don't mind some glorified fan service every now and then, but make it good. Make it worth it for the time being. Don't just put cameo. Oh, you enjoy it now, right? You like film because, oh, you know that guy? I've seen that guy before. I like film now because I've seen this guy. Like, no. Actually have your cameos add something to the story. Like how Spider-Man did. Which I'll eventually to that Spider-Man film when I get to Phase 4. But, man, that film with the other Spider-Mans, they weren't just cameos for the sake of cameos. They were actually adding something to the story, okay? But even then, and these weren't even cameos. These were just characters that are actually part of the story. But, like, I don't know. I would like to see maybe more from Ego the Planet in the future, especially with the actor he has. Or, again, if we have variations from other universes, other timelines, they can always use a different actor. They can have some fun with it and how different this other universe is. I would love to see that. And just the way Star-Lord reacted when he realized that Ego killed his mother was just, that scene was just perfect. Like, what? You motherfucker! Like, that was a good ass scene.
Now.
But my mother. You said you loved my mother.
And that I did. My river lily, who knew all the words to every song that came over the radio. I returned to Earth to see her 3 times, and I knew if I returned a 4th, I'd never leave. The expansion, reason for my very existence would be over, so I did what I had to do. But it broke my heart to put that tumor in her head.
What?
No, all right. I know that sounds bad. Who in the hell do you think you are?
You killed my mother!
I tried so hard to find the form that best suited you.
And this is the thanks I get?
You really need to grow up.
And then just the build up to the battle, which was just goofy fun. Like, that's what Guardians of the Galaxy kind of is. It has it's serious moments, but a lot of goofy fun. And I definitely cannot wait. I cannot wait to get Guardians of the Galaxy Part 3 and that holiday special that we're going to get sometime this year. Thor Ragnarok. I know some people are going to be thinking I'm skipping over Spider-Man. I'll get to Spider-Man next. But I just want to really quickly talk about Thor Ragnarok. Because when I originally saw the trailer for this one, I had a lot of hype. Because, well, what did they show us in the trailer? A big giant monster wolf, the Hulk hulking out, and big monster. I was hoping he was going to fight this motherfucker. But no. They were not supposed to prevent Ragnarok, but cause it. Which I thought honestly was a somewhat pretty interesting twist. And just, I kind of find it interesting, especially looking at what happens with the TVA later in the Loki series. It really goes to show how, like, the timeline really was supposed to go, how it was supposed to go, how everything was kind of just supposed to fall in place. Little did the characters know. It really makes it more interesting when you look back at it. The film itself was fun. It had some pretty good humor, but it definitely did it a little bit too much now that I look back at it, to the point where sometimes it does kill some of the seriousness. But for the most part, I still enjoyed the film. I still thought it was a fun film. And there were some people out there who don't like the humor too much, who thought Taika Waititi, that's his name, right? Taika Waititi, did a little bit too much. I apologize if I'm pronouncing his name wrong. And felt like they definitely went too hard on it in Thor Love and Thunder. Which, although I personally enjoyed Thor Ragnarok, I gotta kind of agree that they tried to lean on it too much in Thor Ragnarok, and just most of it was fucking cheesy and just immature juvenile humor. And I don't want to hear anybody saying stupid shit like, oh, what do you expect from a kids film? It's PG-13, which, yeah, kids can still watch it, but younger kids need parental guidance. And I find it funny we call this a little kids film when we, have the whole orgy joke, And just because it's a kids film doesn't mean that it's got to be so stupid that it doesn't make any sense. Again, it's a PG-13. You think that the kids around that age are just that fucking dumb? They're going to watch some parts of this film and be like, oh, that doesn't make any sense. I was expecting more fighting from Thor and the God Butcher. Maybe I'm gonna want to see more of the God Butcher butchering some fucking gods. Hello, come on, man. Taika Waititi, what the fuck? A lot of us enjoyed Ragnarok. You're not gonna give us. Oh my god, I didn't really have too much hype for Thor: Love and Thunder. When I heard about the storyline for it and how it worked out in the comic books, I was actually intrigued. Maybe just a little hype, but up until the film was getting closer to its release, I just forgot about it. And after seeing it, it was just like, It really doesn't compare to Thor Ragnarok. You really tried to lean too much of what kind of worked in Ragnarok too hard in this film. I haven't even gotten to Phase 4 yet, and I'm already talking about some of the stuff in Phase 4, I know. But I just can't help but compare and contrast, Thor Ragnarok to Thor Love and Thunder when they do some of the stuff in here and there and just lean on it too much, too hard. Yeah, some of it worked, but I mean, given the whole plot of the film, you think it would be a little bit more serious. Even in Thor Ragnarok, they took the situation more serious than they did on Love and Thunder. And the bitch has cancer. Oh my god, dude. Like, why? I hate that excuse that it's a kid's film just because it has to be, dumb and just nonsensical. I apologize if you hear my dog scratching in the background. But yeah, Thor Ragnarok was fun. And for what it was, I think I could still look back at it and enjoy it. But I definitely was hoping from some more fighting, some more battling from the Hulk. At least just whooping the shit out of that wolf. That wolf just used him as a chew toy, which I'm not going to lie, I thought it was funny. Just fucking tossing him around in the ocean, in the water. I thought it was funny, but even then, it's just like, man, come on, just at least let them fight hella for a little bit. While Loki's going to place the crown in the fire and shit. Just, anyways, yeah, those are my thoughts on Thor Ragnarok. On to the next film. Spider-Man Homecoming. Our reintroduction to Spider-Man and his introduction into the MCU, played by Tom Holland. And I just gotta say, I fucking love this guy as Spider-Man. Straight up, love this guy. He does such a good job on the Queen's accent. Spider-Man's Queen's white, right? Point being, he does a good job on that one variation of the New Yorker accent. I've been noticing lately that apparently British people are very good at doing the various type of American accents, but American people suck at trying to do British accents. I find that very interesting. Regardless, I love him as Peter Parker. He does a good job with the accent. That when I found out that he was British, I was like, what the fuck? Who the fuck is this guy talking in Tom Holland's body? I literally did not recognize it at first. I'm like, what the fuck? That's actually how he sounds? Bro, y'all British people really be fooling us. Damn. But yeah, I love this guy as Spider-Man, dude. Like, he really does a good balance between Spider-Man and Peter Parker, which I just personally enjoy, because sometimes we gotta remember, although Peter Parker is Spider-Man, sometimes we gotta look at them as separate characters, with him as Spider-Man and him just as Peter Parker. And that's something that a lot of people definitely love with Tom Holland's Spider-Man, is he kind of has a balance between the two of being Peter Parker and being Spider-Man, who is Peter Parker. You know, I really think he does a good job with this. And I think for the first time, as far as, you know, the live action films go, we get to see the Vulture on the big screen and how they do this iteration. I remember finding out how the comic book version of the Vulture looks, which, I mean, it definitely looks like something that comic books will come up with. It kind of honestly looks ridiculous. So I love how his vulture suit is just made out of old alien tech that just somehow they managed to figure out as a simple fucking cleaning crew. But honestly, that was impressive. I like the setup to how and why he becomes the Vulture, with him losing his job, not being able to make money to afford his family, and kind of understanding this technology. I said we're trying to, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Anyways, take it apart and just clean it all up from the event site. But yeah, I think it was a really good film, and I like how there really adds some attention to it when Spider-Man realizes that the girl he's into is the daughter of his enemy in this film, which it was just definitely such a twist in this film when he gets into the car with her and her dad, and that motherfucker turns around like, oh shit, you done fucked up, you got with the wrong girl, my guy. Oh, daddy don't like you. Oh my god. Yeah, this was definitely a real good film for our new introduction to Spider-Man in the MCU. But I also know some people supposedly had a problem with what was her name? How do you pronounce her name? Zendaya. I'm sorry. Who plays MJ in Spider-Man: Homecoming? Zendaya. Okay, Zendaya. A lot of people actually had a problem with her being MJ, which, why? I feel like people who always have problems with shit being changed in the MCU seem to constantly forget that, I don't know, this is one of the biggest comic book universes in the world that has a fucking multiverse! You know, infinite universes, infinite possibilities, infinite variations, even one where MJ is Michelle Jones, a black girl. Why is that such a hard thing to comprehend? Supposedly, some people have an issue with that because this is supposed to be the 616 universe, like from the comics. How can we know that for sure? How do we know in this universe, assuming they were to number their universe within the vastness of the multiverse, that they just wouldn't consider this the 616 universe, but the comic book universe is actually the real 616 universe? Or maybe almost every other universe in the vastness of the multiverse calls themselves the 616 universe, with every other universe being a different universe. I'm going to take this one scene from the DC animated film of, what was it? Injustice. I'm just going to use that to represent what I'm talking about.
Earth 9 Superman. Welcome to Earth 1.
Actually, we're Earth 1. What are we? 22. Oh. Okay.
And I think that's a perfect example of how we can get away with, at least the character saying this is the 616 universe without it technically being the official 616 universe. They just happen to consider their universe the 616 universe. Like how in DC, many multiverses of the DC heroes may consider their universe Universe 1. And the other DC universe, Universe 2 or 3 or 4. But in their Universe 1. You see what I mean? And again, with the vastness and infiniteness of the multiverse, it includes everything. The animated universe, the comic book universe, the Marvel universe. Hell, this even includes unofficial properties like fucking fan fictions, fan-made fucking stories and videos. Since technically anything and everything is canon in a multiverse, everything is fucking canon just in their own separate universes. Even the fucking fan fictions are technically canon. So why is it such a fucking stretch to find out that MJ is a black woman? But it's the 616 universe. Apparently every other fucking universe is a 616 universe as well. In the animated and fucking comic book universe. So that doesn't fucking work as an excuse. I'm sorry. Especially in a fucking property that has a multiverse. Infinite. Oh, come on, dude. You gotta scratch yourself right now. I apologize for that. Infinite universes. Infinite possibilities. Infinite variations. Why the fuck is that so hard to fucking comprehend of that being a reality? That is fucking and utterly ridiculous. Plus, for this variation, this version of MJ that we get, I think she does it very well. I like her character. You know? She's entertaining. She's a bit sassy. I love the way she played off of Tom Holland. Like, they just did it very well. And I'm honestly a little sad to see that she's going to be leaving the MCU, especially with what happens in, what was it? Spider-Man No Way Home. Sorry, some of these titles are just similar, though. I don't know. I don't know how else to put it. Look, I could understand maybe if they were trying to actually make an adaptation of the official 616 universe within the comics, that it wouldn't make sense to change it too much or drastically. But again, it's a franchise with a multiverse. You do not get to complain about something being changed when it has a multiverse. It literally has the ultimate excuse to change whatever the fuck it wants, whatever the fuck it wants. That's literally the whole reason the multiverse exists. Not just for Marvel, but DC as well. And any other property that does have a multiverse. That's the whole point that it fucking exists as a concept in general. So they can do things differently and do whatever the fuck they want without affecting the main fucking universe / timeline. For some of the people out there who are supposedly the biggest MCU fans, then why do you have a problem with the multiverse being the multiverse? Why do you have a problem with things being different in the infinite vastness of the multiverse, where infinite variations can exist for a multitude of reasons? And how, when it comes to story writing, things are the way they are just because the writer said so. I don't always agree with the writer. I don't always think that it works. But when it comes to a franchise that has a multiverse and has used it as an excuse since forever to keep reproducing the same or similar stories with the same characters or variations of the same characters over and 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 over again, all of a sudden now it's a fucking issue? Holy fucking shit, this is why I do not interact with fandoms, ladies and gentlemen. Because y'all sometimes get fucking ridiculous. Oh my god. I mean, it's one thing to have a debate like the debate with Captain America Civil War. It's another thing to argue and be annoyed by simple little petty bullshit when they have had the excuse to get away with it since forever. And people have had no problem with the multiverse before. But just because this is a main timeline, oh no, this isn't our MJ. Where's my beloved redhead? Shut the fuck up and take what we get. Zendaya was good. She was entertaining. It's a different fucking universe. I don't have a problem if they were to do the original redhead MJ again. I wouldn't mind seeing a different variation of her. But I also don't have a problem with a universe where she's not a white girl redhead. As long as she's still written well. As long as she's still a good written character. With a personality that I do not give a fuck. I'm not a representation guy. And by the way, I'm Latino. So it's not like, oh, I'm being represented by a black woman. I'm Latino. And you're not going to represent us with color when we're all like, when all Latinos are across the skin hue spectrum. Especially as a half Puerto Rican, my people are definitely all colors of the skin hue spectrum on that side. So you can't represent us with color. You got to represent us with culture. But it's not even a thing about representation. It's just that multiverse. They literally have a perfect excuse. This is a different variation of her. She is written well. Enjoy it for what it is. If you don't like it, that's fine. It's a personal taste situation. But objectively, she was written well. For the story she was written into. And yeah, I enjoy it. I just hate it when people make some stupid ass arguments like that when it comes to Marvel, or again, even sometimes DC, with a franchise that has used the multiverse excuse since its conception. Enjoy it for what it is, because it's good. If we ever do get another MJ, redheaded MJ, I don't have a problem with that. I just want her to be a good written character. And for some reason, one day we get an Asian or a Puerto Rican MJ, I don't care. Just write her well. I don't give a fuck about representation. I just want good written characters. And stop arguing about stupid bullshit in a franchise that has, again, I don't care if I sound like a broken record, has the excuse, aka the multiverse, since fucking forever. I'm gonna leave a link to this one video of this comic book fangirl who actually talks about the multiverse and its conception. I mean, I'm stuttering too much. And even in her video, she says, from her research, from the people who originally created it, that it was made as an excuse to do things differently with the same characters and do whatever they want and not affect the main timeline or universe. Why the fuck are people having a problem with it now? Last time I checked, there are a lot of people out there that love what if storylines and wish that the actual what if show would do some better fucking stories. Fanfic writers are doing better what if stories than fucking what if. The show. I don't know about the comic books. I'm pretty sure the comic books are still doing good, otherwise people wouldn't still be reading them or like it as a concept in general. But yeah, this is just my thoughts on Homecoming and the dumb fucks that have a problem with this MJ. If she wasn't written very well, then I can understand not liking her and thinking like, oh, she was probably just done for diversity points. I hate it when filmmakers, content creators, media companies do that shit. But again, they have an excuse to do things differently here, without it just being the sake of diversity points. And as long as those characters are written well, then who cares? If they're a good written character, then who cares? Is it unnecessary sometimes? Yes. But this is Marvel, not fucking Scooby-Doo. Yes, I know. I've heard about the fucking shit with people losing their shit with the unnecessary race swaps. Now that's an example where it truly is unnecessary. And in the process of trying to be more diverse, they made the character who was typically the pothead stereotype black. Congratulations, you played yourself. And in the process of trying to be diverse, you ended up being racist. That's fucking hilarious. On with the next film. Black Panther. I think just like with Doctor Strange, I didn't really know too much about this character beyond what I may have heard from comic book lore videos or people who may have just been fans of the characters or minor cameos within past animated Marvel shows that I've seen. But for the most part, for what we got from, again, forgive me for not remembering the name of the actors, so I'm going to have to Google him again. Hold on, Google. Who plays Black Panther in the Black Panther film? Chadwick Boseman. I knew it was something Boseman. Rest in peace, my man. Yeah, that is it. Chadwick. Yeah, okay, Black Panther. Yeah, I actually enjoyed Boseman's. I just love the way he delivered Black Panther Black Panther and as T'Challa. Again, kind of like with Spider-Man, sometimes we gotta look at them as two separate characters. You gotta see Peter Parker as Peter Parker and then Peter Parker as Spider-Man. In this case, we kind of gotten that, for Black Panther. We got to see T'Challa a little bit as T'Challa, and we got to see Black Panther, or T'Challa as Black Panther. How he is as Black Panther. Of course, we got a taste of him back in the Civil War film. I forgot to mention that, which I definitely loved. I'm sorry about that. I definitely loved how he played Black Panther in Civil War, but to actually watch him in his own film was entertaining. I find it funny though that people act like this is such a groundbreaking film because like, oh my god, it's the first black superhero. What about Blade? What about what was his name? Static Shock from the DC universe? Yeah, I think that's what it was. I remember seeing the cartoon of a black character with electrical powers. Yeah, Static Shock. You think Black Panther was the first? What? I mean, maybe in general, like just in general, he might be the first black superhero ever. At least when it comes to the comic books. But when it comes to the first ever black superhero to ever be, I guess, on the screen, you have Static Shock. If you're specifically talking about film, motherfucker, Blade. The trilogy had existed before this motherfucker was out. And again, I'm not trying to talk down to the film. I enjoyed it. Granted, I look back and I could see that the CGI was a bit rough on the edges. I feel like the narrative could have been done a little bit better. But I enjoyed the film. For what we got for our actual introduction, or actually sitting down with a film with Black Panther, I actually enjoyed it. And was definitely excited for more in the future. And then turns out the guy passes away. You know, rest in peace, my man. Like, I would have definitely loved to get more from him as Black Panther, as T'Challa, which we did get a little bit more from him in What If. Who knows? Maybe we will get some scenes that they managed to record in the next Black Panther film. Kind of like just like as a goodbye, as a tribute to him, maybe. But I don't know, man. It sucks. Even for what Black Panther was, it wasn't the greatest film. I think it was alright. I thought it was decent. And people acting like it's a groundbreaking film. No, it isn't. It really isn't. It really, really isn't. He's not the first superhero on film. That's Blade. Or on the screen. That's Static Shock. But it was a good film. I liked it. I say it was decent, but it was pretty decent. I liked it. I liked him as T'Challa. I liked him as Black Panther. I would have loved to get more of him as of Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa, as Black Panther, and we're not gonna get that now because unfortunately the guy's gone. But even though it was a decent film, he definitely left behind a legacy for the most part. Because for what it was, people still had an appreciation for him, and for how much he put, as far as from his side, and his effort into the film, when he was dealing with this illness. So I think that's also something people have a bit more of a respect for when it comes to this film and the actor who played it. And I feel like some people take it as disrespectful if you don't, as disrespect to the actor if you don't find it as a groundbreaking film. I'm sorry, it's not. If you're still saying he's the first superhero, like as far as on the screen or on the film, you're just one of those motherfuckers that haven't seen Blade the trilogy or ever seen Aftershock. I don't remember too much about that show, but I did grow up watching it and I thought it was a good show and I enjoyed that character. I honestly kind of related to him as a kid who's not fucking black. I'm technically, I got African in my blood,